Hey everyone, and welcome. So today, we're going to dive into something pretty intense, the incredible pressure faced by the world's top athletes. But we're also going to uncover this really surprising connection to a big idea that's totally shifting how we look at the human mind.
Just listen to this. I feel like I have the weight of the world on my shoulders at times. I mean, that's from Simone Biles, maybe the greatest gymnast ever. It just perfectly sums up that crushing feeling of expectation, right? It's so much more than just the physical part. It's this huge mental weight.
And that's the big question here, isn't it? The central puzzle we're trying to solve. How can these absolute icons of strength, people at the very, very peak of human achievement, just break? It's a question that honestly tells us a lot about what success really means. All right, let's get into it. First up, the weight of gold. We're going to look at the incredible psychological price that champions like Michael Phelps and Simone Biles have had to pay. Okay, so there's this really key idea we need to get our heads around. It's called identity fusion. So imagine for a second that your entire self-worth, your whole reason for being, is completely wrapped up in one single thing, your performance, winning. That's it. It's like your identity and your success have become, well, fused together. This is a massive trap, and it's why these top athletes are at such a high risk. Look at Michael Phelps, right? The most decorated Olympian of all time. After he achieved everything he'd ever worked for, the competition, the structure, the goal, it was all just gone. And this huge emptiness just washed over him. Turns out, all that success, it wasn't a cure for his internal struggles. It was just a really good distraction. With no next race to train for, he was just lost. And then there's Simone Biles. For her, that crushing pressure became physical. She got the twisties, which is frankly terrifying. It's a mental block where your brain and body just completely lose connection while you're flipping through the air. It's like her brain slammed on the emergency brake. It decided nope, safety first, and overrode the demand to perform. It was a pure act of psychological self-preservation. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting when you compare them side by side. I mean, they both lost control, but in totally different ways, right? For Phelps, it was all internal, a crisis of purpose, of his mood. But for Biles, it was external, it was physical, a loss of control over her own body. And the root cause was different too. Phelps was stuck between doing and just being, while Biles was fighting the pressure to be absolutely perfect. But look at the resolution. It's so powerful. Phelps found his control again by being vulnerable and asking for help. And Biles, she found control by drawing a line, setting a boundary to keep herself safe. All right, so to really get what's going on with these athletes, we have to kind of zoom out. We're going to pivot to a totally different, but completely related idea that is changing everything we thought we knew about the brain. And trust me, you'll see how it all connects in a minute. It's pretty powerful. So let's talk about this concept, neurodiversity. What is it? Well, it's a way of looking at the human brain that says all the natural variations we see in things like attention, mood, how we learn, they're just differences, not deficits, not flaws. Think about biodiversity in an ecosystem. You need all kinds of plants and animals for it to be healthy. Neurodiversity is kind of like that for humanity. And this is the absolute game changer. It's a shift from what's called the medical model to the social model. The old way, the medical model, basically says, hey, your brain works differently, you're the problem. We need to fix you. But the social model, it flips that completely on its head. It says the problem isn't the person. The disability comes from the mismatch between that person and an environment that just wasn't designed for them. So the environment is the barrier, not the person. So who are we talking about when we say neurodivergent? Well, this can include things like autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and a whole bunch of other natural variations. But, it's less about the specific labels and more about the big idea. The idea that these are just different operating systems for the brain, like Mac and Windows. Neither one is broken or a buggy version of the other. They just work differently, with their own strengths and their own challenges. Okay, here we go. This is where the two threads of our story come together. We're going to connect the dots now between the insane pressure on athletes and this whole idea of neurodiversity. And the key, the thing that links them both, it's the environment. Think about it. In the old school sports world, what happens when an athlete struggles with pressure? What do people say? Oh, they're weak. They're not mentally tough enough. The bottom line is the athlete is viewed as the one who's broken. Sound familiar? I mean, that's the exact same logic as the medical model we just talked about.
It points the finger at the individual and says, your brain doesn't fit in, so it must be deficient. In both cases, all the blame gets piled onto the person.
But what if we've been asking the wrong question this whole time? What if it's not the person? What if the system is the problem? What if that whole environment of elite sports, this world that demands perfection and forces you to fuse your entire identity with winning, what if that's the thing that's actually disabling people?
And this is where it all clicks into place. That classic just push through the pain mindset, that's the medical model, pure and simple. It's telling the athlete, you're weak, fix yourself. But when Michael Phelps opened up about his depression, and when Simone Biles chose to step back, they were living the social model. They weren't failing, no way. They were challenging a broken system. They were bravely changing the environment, not just for them, but for everyone who comes after. So this brings us to the big takeaway. How these incredible moments of courage are completely changing the definition of what it means to be strong, not just on the field or in the gym, but everywhere. And the ripple effect from this is just huge. I mean, think about it. They've helped shatter the stigma around mental health for millions of people. They've made it clear that who you are as a person is way more important than what you achieve. And maybe the biggest thing of all, they've taught us that toughness isn't about gritting your teeth and suffering in silence. Real toughness is having the courage to be vulnerable.
So this is the new standard. This is what true strength looks like now. It's not about just pushing pain down. It's about having the wisdom to recognize your limits and the courage to say, I need to take care of myself.
And so I want to leave you with this final thought. Yeah, elite sports is a pretty extreme example, but it's definitely not the only place this happens. So the question for all of us is, where else are we doing this? Where in our jobs, in our schools, or even just in the crazy expectations we put on ourselves? Where are we demanding performance over well-being? It's a big question and one worth thinking about. Thanks for joining me.